the 2 decades plus of neocon liberal intervention in other countries, starting wars around the world to further our ways of life, our interests, and to nation build, those chickens are coming home to roost.
Yeah.
And you're seeing that with Iraq, Libya, Syria, Afghanistan. Huge numbers of people are now migrating from those countries, trying to get into Europe because we intervened, failed, destabilized those countries, and have left them in a complete mess. Hello and welcome to another episode of War Zones on Outpost. I'm James Glancy, and today I'm joined by fellow Outpost co-founder Alex Webster, and this really is an emergency session because we're here to discuss Afghanistan as a result of the Ministry of Defence data leak for vulnerable Afghans who are fleeing the Taliban. Now, the super injunction that has been in place, unknown to the public, unknown to even most of the media, has just been lifted, and we've just found out of the catastrophic data release that's happened as a result of an email that was sent from within the British Ministry of Defence that released the names of 25,000 Afghan people that were seeking relocation from Afghanistan to the UK under the ARAP programme because they had allegedly served with British or NATO forces in Afghanistan, and they were deemed to be a risk for retribution from the Taliban. Alex, this has been massive news over the last 24 hours, but it's also a story that has been a major part of my life. Obviously, I served in Afghanistan with the Royal Marines, but the film which we host on Outpost itself, Afghanistan, a major part of that, well, almost all of it, documents the collapse of Afghanistan, and at the time, us, or my team, trying to relocate vulnerable Afghans to the UK.
Yeah, so, I mean, it goes without saying this is one of the biggest immigration scandals in decades, if not ever, in terms of immigration. But it's, it's not just immigration, it's foreign policy, it's MOD, it's defence, it's war. But to go into Afghanistan for a second, which is, if not seen it, it's an extraordinary film. It's good. There's reason enough for the subscription alone. But what sorts of people you were dealing with these people day in, day out for months? How long were you serving there? What was it again?
So I did 3 tours. I just did over 18 months of in command at a sort of tactical operational level in Afghanistan between 2006 and 2011. And then I went back in 2021, February 2021, to document Afghanistan because I had a feeling that the country was going to collapse. So I had a good spread over the decades of what the country and the people were like.
So what kind of people are we dealing with here who are sort of being rehomed in the UK?
So that is a complex and open-ended question. I mean, obviously, we don't know all the people on that list of 25,000. But, Afghanistan is one of the poorest countries in the world, the lowest literacy rates. It's a very religious country, Islamic, and now under complete Sharia law under the Taliban. And a majority of men in that country actually prefer to live under Sharia and actually agree with the Taliban system of governing. The people we're talking about that were really eligible for relocation when America pulled the plug on Afghanistan and caused a catastrophic collapse of the country were the ones who had worked at the top echelons of government, of the Afghan government, the ones that had worked in their intelligence services, their special forces units, and their secret police, because they were the most proficient members of the Afghan security services, but the ones that worked most closely with the British and Americans and were probably ideologically, educationally most aligned with us as people, our values, and were given the best access to our intelligence and our ways of working. And so they were the ones that 100% had a target on their head from the Taliban. The Taliban, throughout the campaign, were searching for these people. They had kill squads out to capture them. And then once they took control of the country and could get hold of any of them, they would brutally torture them, one as a punishment, and then they usually torture them to death or just execute them, and then the bodies would be dumped in ditches. So there's a clear and present danger to a large number of Afghan men and women that worked with Britain and NATO. That said, hundreds of thousands of Afghans served in the Afghan National Security Defence Forces, in their police, but only a small number, in the probably less than 5,000, you could say, worked very, very closely with the British military and would therefore be realistically entitled to resettlement. So the numbers that have suddenly been rushed,
So we're
and
looking at about 5 times that.
well, but then but this is on top of some that have already, a large number that's already been settled here and settled around Europe and America and Canada. Huge numbers have left. Millions have left Afghanistan, and millions still try and leave. So this is complicated, but this. So you're saying what type of people? I gave you an example there of the ones that I think were seriously vulnerable and should be given support. But it's probably less than 5,000. But of course, a country of between 35 and 40 million, most of those people are completely unsuited to coming and living in the West. And most of the ones that claim to have worked with British or American forces, so say they served in the Afghan army, would not have had a close relationship with us. We might have been in the same forward operating bases or same buildings at time, but you can't say there was they were independently working for the Afghan government in conjunction with NATO. So it's quite a loose link to say, yes, I worked alongside the British at a camp and therefore I should be given a sanctuary for life with my extended family in Britain. But that's what it's become. That's essentially what the policy has become. Anybody that can link themselves to Britain or America or other European nations, it essentially is saying that they should be entitled to relocation.
But it strikes me, this almost seems like a form of ideological crusade. So am I right in thinking that a lot of these Afghans weren't even in country at the start, and that the Taliban already had access to this list? So the line that is being taken, which is, have you ever sent an email that cost you 7 billion quid? Well, actually the email didn't cost 7 billion quid. It was this reaction to that.
Well, the chain of events, as we understand it, is that in 2022, a team within the MOD were looking to, under the ARAP program, which is the Afghan Relocation and Assistance Program, something that I had supported for people that genuinely helped us and were vulnerable. This program would allow them to come to Britain and be relocated here and provide them support to integrate. But the list had somehow got itself to 25,000 people that had applied to it. So they were curating this list and trying to verify, did these people have a legitimate claim? And in doing so, it turns out that list was put on an email to Afghans that we trusted or thought we trusted to verify people within their community. But once that list had gone out beyond the Ministry of Defence into the Afghan network, it's clear it got passed on to a number of people. What happened was, about 18 months after that email had gone out and it essentially the British government had lost control of that list, an Afghan who had applied for asylum under the ARAP scheme had it rejected. He then used Facebook to blackmail the British government. He said, I have a list and I'm going to release all these names unless someone contacts me about my case. And he apparently put 7 to 9 names from the list and all their details, phone numbers, to prove that he had it. This sent the British government into a spin apparently at the time, in 2023 or 18 months later, because their view was that if that list gets in the hands of the Taliban, it will put all those people under immediate threat, or essentially gives the Taliban a kill list. Now that was their reaction to that. Not all those people were actually even in Afghanistan. Some of them were already safely in Pakistan. And so that seems to be, and this is from what we're reading in the press, this seems to have kicked off a chain of events whereby the government decided that we need to urgently evacuate everybody on that list to the UK, but that we must not let the press or anyone know that there is a list out there. So an injunction or a super injunction was raised through the courts to prevent the press discussing that leak. And within the last few years, the government has been secretly evacuating tens of thousands, well, I think at the moment 16,000 of that list to the UK at a cost that could escalate up to 7 billion or more. But it decided not to tell Parliament. It didn't even tell the leader of the opposition at the time, as Keir Starmer, and it continued down this line without any democratic accountability. And I think that's really what the outrage is about.